wandering through and beyond the ancient walls of Jerusalem's Old City, visiting revered sites connected to the Virgin Mary and the believed site of one of Jesus' greatest miracles. Ultimately, finding ourselves at the foot of the Mount of Olives, gazing upon this iconic and sacred landmark. 3:26 p.m., stepping back onto the streets of the Old City for an afternoon of exploring. During our walk, we come across numerous arches. Arches in Jerusalem's Old City have a rich historical progression. Their origins trace back to ancient empires, like the Romans and Byzantines, who introduced this architectural feature to the region. Our first stop on the detour is the Church of Saint Anne, a French Roman Catholic church located in the Muslim Quarter, near the Lion's Gate. The church is named in honor of Saint Anne, who is traditionally recognized as the Mother of the Virgin Mary. I didn't notice the window for the entry fee. Fortunately, Paul noticed it. I paid 20 shekels for the two of us. There are different sites that are believed to be the birthplace of the Virgin Mary. The canonical Gospels do not mention Mary's birth, but the 2nd century Gospel of James states that her parents were Joachim and Anne. The Church of Saint Anne is generally regarded as having a stronger basis in historical evidence for its claim to be the birthplace of the Virgin Mary. This site is traditionally associated with the parents of Mary, Saints Joachim and Anne, and archaeological excavations around the church have revealed structures that date back to the Byzantine period, aligning with early Christian traditions. Additionally, the church is located near the Pool of Bethesda, a significant biblical site mentioned in the Gospel of John, which adds further historical context to the area and enhances its importance within Christian heritage. It has a straightforward design yet exudes grandeur. This staircase goes down to the part of the church where it is believed the Virgin Mary was born. An altar dedicated to her is located in this space. The church has a simple or minimalist architectural style, without excessive ornamentation or elaborate detailing, compared to some other Romanesque structures, especially on the capitals or tops of the columns. Constructed from light white stone, the interior is free of icons or decorations, yet possesses an undeniable magnificence. We can really sense the thickness of the stone walls, which are essential for supporting the weight of the vaulted ceilings. The high vaulted ceiling creates a sense of height and spaciousness. Paul was already on his way out as I was just walking in, having taken a bit longer to pay the entrance fee. Built between 1131 and 1138, the church is designed as a three-aisled basilica with a cross-shaped layout. This design highlights the main hall and cross arms, a common feature in Romanesque churches. On the left-hand side is a sculpture of Saint Anne teaching her daughter, the Blessed Virgin Mary. Saint Anne holds a scroll from the Holy Scriptures, conveying the important Jewish verse from the book of Deuteronomy. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. DT 6-4-5. Adjacent to the church is the ruin of the Pool of Bethesda, where one of the most famous miracles of Jesus is recounted. In the Gospel of John, where Jesus heals the paralytic man who had been sick for 38 years. The history of Jerusalem and the Pool of Bethesda has been eventful. The northern pool was covered, while the southern pool remained a healing site during Roman times. In the 5th century, Bishop Juvenal built a large Byzantine church, which was destroyed in 614 AD, leaving behind some walls, arches, and a mosaic fragment. In the 7th century, a small chapel was built, but it was abandoned during the Muslim era. After Christians retook Jerusalem in 1099, the Crusaders constructed a monastery and a large church dedicated to Saint Anne, near the site believed to be the birthplace of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Archaeological evidence supports the identification of these ruins as the Pool of Bethesda. The evidence includes biblical references, archaeological findings, historical significance, and religious continuity. With all this information, it's a profound feeling to stand in a place where Christ once walked and performed a miracle. Standing here, surrounded by history and traces of Christ's presence, we can't help but feel a deep, humbling sense of reflection and gratitude for this opportunity. Our second destination, located between the Church of St. and Lion's Gate, is the Greek Orthodox Church of the Nativity of the Theotokos. This site is significant in Greek Orthodox tradition, believed to be the birthplace of the Virgin Mary. The Greek Orthodox tradition primarily relies on oral traditions and historical writings rather than concrete archaeological evidence. On the second level, 2 floors below the modest-sized chapel, small caves include a hollow space identified as Mary's birthplace. A key feature inside the room is the mosaic floor made from colored stones, glass, and tiles, with a cross believed to represent the cradle of the Virgin Mary. Greek Orthodox tradition believed this site to be Mary's birthplace, known as the Theotokos, meaning God-bearer in Greek. We will now head down to the final underground floor. The narrow steps evoke a sense of curiosity. This is one of the places we're unfamiliar with. Since we only have 5 days in Israel and decided to come here at the last minute, my research was rather limited. Throughout this trip, we had numerous opportunities to explore ruins and caves that felt like a way to connect with the past, even if not in its entirety. As the saying goes, the past is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. Standing in this ancient cave, we can't help but reflect on the time of Jesus, when there were no soft mattresses to lie on, no sources of light, and when Jerusalem was surrounded by hills and valleys. Whether in this location or elsewhere, the birthplace of the Virgin Mary, our visit to the caves reminds us that during Jesus' time, caves provided shelter, served as burial sites, including Jesus' tomb, and offered quiet spaces for prayer, symbolizing both despair and hope. We are going to exit the city inside the walls of Jerusalem through the Lion's Gate, also known as the St. Stephen's Gate. This historic entrance, built in the 16th century by Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, features lion sculptures symbolizing strength. Many pilgrims typically start their journey along the Via Dolorosa from here. The gentleman asked where we would go next, and we later realized he was also inside the Greek Orthodox Church with us. He seems to be traveling solo, probably asking out of curiosity, to seek company, gather information, or make new friends. We wished him safe travels. Passing through the Lion's Gate, which connects the Old City to the Mount of Olives and is significant as the gate through which Jesus is believed to have entered Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, filled us with awe, accomplishment, and gratitude. This was our first exploration outside the city walls. Even within the city wall, there are so many sites to explore. A week in Jerusalem alone wouldn't be enough. We hope to return someday. In these challenging times, we pray for healing and peace. We're finally catching our first glimpse of the foot of the Mount of Olives. This iconic site is named for the many olive trees that have flourished here for centuries. The hill has a rich history of olive cultivation and holds significant religious meaning, mentioned in both the Old and New Testaments. It's extremely likely that this is where Jesus often prayed, where his disciples stayed the night he was arrested, and where key events, like the Ascension, occurred. We will cross Jericho, also known as Jericho Road, which is a significant road in Jerusalem. It connects the city to the area leading to Jericho and serves as an important route for both local and tourist traffic. Closely associated with the Kidron Valley, and in Jesus' time, it would have been part of the route along the valley. It runs through a historically and biblically significant region, making it a vital artery for transportation and access to various sites. With a few more steps, We gain a better view of the Mount of Olives at its base, catching a clear sight of the Church of All Nations up close, while the golden domes of the Church of Mary Magdalene shine from afar. To our right lies an ancient cemetery, part of the historic Jewish cemetery in the Mount of Olives. This burial ground stretches across the slopes of the mountain and is one of the oldest and largest Jewish cemeteries in the world, with graves dating back over 3,000 years. The tombstones cascade down the hillside, facing the Old City and the Temple Mount. In ancient times, the area where we stand now was part of the foot of the Mount of Olives. This site has been witness to significant biblical events, including King David's flight from Absalom and Jesus teaching his disciples. Jerusalem's history is shaped by a series of powerful empires and groups that invaded or controlled Jerusalem throughout its long history. These empires left lasting religious, cultural, and architectural influences that shaped Jerusalem's identity and legacy. We need to make our way down there. In biblical times, it came under the rule of Egyptians, Assyrians, and Babylonians. The classical period saw Persian, Greek, and Seleucid influence, followed by Roman and Byzantine rule in the Roman period. With the rise of Islam, Israel came under the Rashidun, Umayyad, Abbasid, and Fatimid caliphates. The medieval era introduced Crusader and Mamluk control, eventually giving way to Ottoman rule during the early modern period. In the 20th century, the British Mandate governed the region until the establishment of the modern State of Israel in 1948. We completely walked right past this stair without noticing it. Let's backtrack and head down this way. Walking between structures primarily made of stone feels like stepping into a time machine that has somehow transported us back to the ancient, or classical period. Limestone, basalt, and tufa stones used in ancient structures in Jerusalem are not rare in Israel. They are accessible and have been utilized extensively in construction throughout the country's history. Their abundance, especially limestone, which is widely used, has greatly influenced the architectural heritage of Israel, particularly in Jerusalem. We are now in front of the Church of the Tomb of Mary, also known as the Church of the Assumption, which is believed by many to be the final resting place of Mary, the mother of Jesus. Located at the foot of the Mount of Olives in the Kidron Valley, little north of the Garden of Gethsemane. The current structure dates back to the 12th century and was built by the Crusaders. However, the site has an even older history, with earlier churches established there by Byzantine and Armenian Christians in the 5th century. On the left is the Chapel of Joseph, honoring Mary's husband, and on the right is the Chapel of Joachim and Anne, honoring Mary's parents. As we quietly descend the wide staircase, we find ourselves in a dimly lit church, enveloped in a mysterious ambience created by the deep black hue of the ceiling. The blackened ceiling is a result of centuries of candle burning. The church has a beautifully ancient look, built into the earth and partially underground. To the right, a small aedicule with narrow openings on two sides allowing access contains a stone bench where Mary's body is believed to have rested. Hole in the wall of the tomb enable pilgrims to touch the bench. In some pictures, we saw pieces of paper inside the tomb, possibly prayer requests or notes left by pilgrims. This time, however, there were none. Many Christian traditions hold that Mary was assumed into heaven, body and soul, so her tomb is thought to be symbolic or empty. The New Testament does not document the end of the earthly life of Jesus' mother. In 1950, Pope Pius XII proclaimed that, after Mary's life on earth was complete, she was taken up, body and soul, into heaven. This event, known as the Assumption, became an official dogma of the Roman Catholic Church. However, the dogma does not specify whether Mary physically died before being assumed into heaven. Originally a burial cave carved into rock in the 1st century, church was expanded in 455 AD into a cross-shaped structure centered around Mary's tomb. Note the gate to the right of Lion's Gate, which leads to a Muslim cemetery and takes you to the Golden Gate, believed in Jewish tradition to be the entrance through which the Messiah will enter Jerusalem. Up next, we'll take a narrow path from the Tomb of Mary Church to the Gethsemane Cave Complex, where Jesus and his disciples often stayed in Jerusalem. Walking through the peaceful Garden of Gethsemane, we'll pass ancient olive trees, the silent witnesses to Jesus' final hours in prayer. Then, we'll enter the Church of All Nations and touch the rock believed to be where Jesus prayed before his crucifixion. Meeting tour buddies along the way who added fun, laughter, and joy, making our journey even more memorable.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit bell button of Paul Tonet for more videos.